How close am I to the eclipse?
You're getting there.
What's it making, Mr. Wonka? Mr. Wonka worked the factory. Change the world. Your imagination.
I could change the world.
Hello, welcome back to Coffee Over Apples. My name is Steph. I'm here with my partner.
Oh, hello, I'm Larry.
And so we're back for another joint book review. This is my first time reading Berserk. How many times have you read it?
I've read it like once fully through up until whatever was current at the time, and then kept following it. But that was a while ago, actually.
Okay, but so then this is your second time reading it through.
Fully through, yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we've been kind of like buddy reading this behind the scenes. This is Berserk Omnibus 3. Contains volumes 7, 8, 9.
It's 3 every book, right?
3 every book. How close am I to the eclipse?
You're getting there.
So much has happened in these 3 volumes. Honestly, I feel like the longer we go, the better it's getting. I rated volume 9 pretty high. I did. We got things to talk about. We have the fall of the Band of the Hawks. We have the capturing of Griffith and Griffith's animosity coming to the forefront after losing Guts. We have Guts leaving the Band of Hawks. We have the...
We also have that siege.
Which siege?
The one where the Band of the Hawks kind of get their like newfound glory by defeating...
Oh, okay, so their rise to fame in the kingdom and their fall all happen within these 3 volumes?
It kind of, yeah, now that I think about it. Well, they were kind of like ascending in the last few volumes, but this is kind of like the pinnacle of their ascents.
Okay.
Also, the killing of the queen.
Yes.
That too.
Yes.
A lot of stuff happens.
The princess, the Death Knight, what's the skull guy who came?
The Skull Knight.
Skull Knight guy who came and was like, the eclipse is coming. Casca and Guts finally get down and dirty, as they both deserve. They deserve happiness, even if it's for a brief moment. I was like, slay. The rise of the Band of the Hawks in this, I think it starts to become more transparent that now that Guts' plan, I wouldn't say necessarily plateaus, but that the Hawks have become the heroes. There's this lull of peace in the kingdom. They kind of don't know what to do with themselves, and so most of them are spending their time trying to figure out, like, well, what do we do with this newfound glory? What does Casca do as a female warrior with this, like, newfound glory? Because there's this expectation that knights are kind of going to rise in the ranks and then marry certain wealthy members of society, move on to be maybe dukes, duchesses, future princes, I don't know. But they're warriors at the end of the day.
The major kind of crux of the points in this part of the plot is most of the other members of the Band of the Hawks are perfectly satisfied with their lot in life, which is they work and they work and they work, and if they somehow didn't die or get maimed in the process, they are now successful. They are taken care of.
Yeah.
And that's enough for most of them. Most of them are pretty happy with their devices.
Yeah.
Guts and Casca have this kind of their duality where they're 2 halves of the same coin as far as both of them don't actually have a plan beyond serving Griffith. But they both have very different perspectives where Casca's aimlessness towards this goal of like serving Griffith has come to heads where she realizes that this is getting nowhere. She will never be more important to Griffith. And on the other hand, you have Guts who takes it as, I have no plan. I need to separate from this. Like, it's the reaction was for one of them is, I have no plan. I have to kind of build some kind of connection. The other one is, I have no plan. I have no like ambitions. I need to break away. Now you see how like those 2 opposing ideologies kind of lead to the events that follow.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that, like you said, everyone's motivations for being in the Bands of Hawks is a bit different. So we have the other background characters. I can't remember any of their names, but like the main crew, who their devotion to the Band of the Hawks was a means of survival, and like they've survived, so they've succeeded, right? And so yes, they're going through this turmoil of like, now what do we do? But it's not necessarily like the turmoil of being in a semblance of peace that's bothering them as much as it is bothering Casca.
I don't think
and
it's bothering
Guts.
them at all.
I think it is. I think it is because we see that one character who is like drinking himself to ad nauseum and hitting on the barmaid and then like getting
Corcus?
upset. Yeah, getting upset with things. And then we have that other character who I think is a little bit more level-headed and confronts Guts when he's trying to leave. And he talks about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So it may not be so straightforward, but I think they are grappling with it in different ways. Also, this like anxiety, I forget which character it was, but there's a character that shows some kind of anxiety of like, how long does the peace last? Because peace is sandwiched by war. All we know is war. When's the next war? Right?
It's more like this is their job. It doesn't stop being their job just because they have a fancy title.
Yeah. And now they have to defend something versus take something over.
That's very true. I don't know. I think it kind of comes to this idea of like almost like if you've been doing a job for so long and all of a sudden you don't have that job anymore. I think you're talking about like kind of what Griffith said is that once the siege is over, there will be nothing for us to kind of show our pedigree. The ascent stops. So this is why he's already had like 6 steps ahead where he's like, I have to secure my title, I have to marry the princess, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to raise my social standings, I have to put all of these other socialites under my thumb. There's never a moment where I feel like during the ascents that Griffith doesn't know what to do next.
Oh, no,
He's had this planned out for a very long time.
Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, I think in volume 7 or maybe it's volume 8, I don't remember. There's one of them where we actually see to what extent previously Griffith was willing to do things such as sell his body.
Mid of 7, I think. Yeah, talking about the Baron who was in that castle that they sieged.
Yes.
How literally in the past he was kind of he was currying favor with him through sexual acts.
Yeah.
All for the sake of being able to gain funds for the Band of the Hawks.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that was a really smart thing to put in volume 7 that kind of preludes to what happens later. Oh my god, this poor princess. Yo, this poor girl, like, for me personally, one of the peak moments at his most villainous, the most animosity with what he does to that princess, and take it as like a personal trigger, I don't care. But my god, he was like peak villain in that moment. And I know it's only going to get worse from there.
Oh, for sure.
But like, I think that it was really interesting that they framed what he did with the Baron previously to show that he has no qualms over disrupting the sanctity of the body.
He has...
He sees bodies as another tool.
This is true. No, it's... The way I kind of interpreted... There's 2 things I took away from the Baron situation. Number 1 was that there are no stones he will not leave unturned. He will not... There's no barriers to what he will do for his ambitions. He's not infallible. I think that it's not like he's I don't know, there's kind of, I think, this idea of like magnificent bastard type characters, which are like always a step ahead, always have everything under their thumb, everything is in their control. He has to have some kind of fallibility. And if this is those moments where like he's willing to throw away something, and it's not for nothing, you can see that it deeply affects him psychologically when he has to do these like sexual favors for the Baron. It affects him, it bothers him, it disturbs him, but he's still willing to do it. And it kind of shows that like there is a cost, there's a toll to the things he's doing. Which is why when he does those things to the princess, the first moment we've seen since that flashback with the river, that he's frustrated. He has this deep rage, this deep frustration over his loss of control. That he needs control, and he's very good at maintaining control, but he can't always have control. And when Guts kind of breaks away from him, this is the first time in a long time that he hasn't had everything under his thumb. And it absolutely drives him nuts.
Yeah.
To the point that he has to do this grasp of control with the princess, which was to no one's favor, especially not his.
Yeah.
That he does this thing, and immediately, the first time he loses his cool in like years, and it immediately bites him in the ass.
Yeah. It was a train wreck that I couldn't look away from. It was horrifically fabulous.
Oh yeah. It's really funny that he's doing everything right up until this point. He fucking fakes his own poisoning, burns down a tower, kills a bunch of nobles, kills more nobles, like threatens socialites. He does all these things. He's doing everything right. One fuck up, and it all comes crumbling down.
And that's all it took. Oh, when he's getting tortured, the Behelit falls into like, is it a sewer?
It falls into like a sewer drain or something.
Falls into something.
Into like open waters.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that because I was really expecting it to just kind of stay with him until he uses it to do something, which will, I guess, maybe like bring us back to the first few volumes of Berserk, but I guess I was totally wrong. I don't know. So I'm very excited to see where that's going to go and how that's going to come back to being relevant.
Not that it's a spoiler or anything, but there is more than one. Keep that in mind.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No,
I thought there was one.
No, there's not. Behelit's, there's more than one of them.
Oh.
The one that was in the original part of the story in the future is a different Behelit.
Oh.
That's important to keep in mind.
Well, that's good to know. Nobody told me that till now. Thank you. I just thought it was like one special eggy item.
MacGuffin?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, kills the queen. I don't have much to say about kills the queen. Saw that coming. She was a bitch. They were all bitches. Usually anybody who's an ass ends up dead. I mean, everybody dies. That's not the point. Everybody dies. But if they're more of an ass, chances are
they die a horrible death.
They die a horrible death and relatively soon.
I think what's really funny about it is this idea that part of what makes Griffith so successful is the fact that people look down on him. The idea that a lot of these like characters, like these like nobles, like these ruffians, they think that they can raise to higher society. Well, no, Gatsby, we're old money. It's and like that's exactly what gets them. Because Griffith's like, go, listen, think what you want to think. I will fucking kill you no matter what. You can either bend to my whim or I will kill you. It shows that despite him showing this facade of affability and amicability, Griffith might be one of the most bloodthirsty and ruthless characters in the entire series.
Yeah.
I think that the series kind of starts off with this idea of showing a contrast between Guts and Griffith, that like Guts is cold-blooded and he is vicious and he can be animalistic, and you have Griffith who is very much like posh and proper and clever and witty and tactical. Guts is the one with a conscience. Guts is the one with adept to his emotional complexity.
I never at once thought that Griffith had a conscience of any kind. I think the other characters around him want to think he does. They desperately want to think he does, because if he doesn't, then it might actually do something to break their own spirit of who were they idolizing, who were they following, and to what end. But, I mean, maybe not. I don't even know if I think Guts necessarily thinks that either. Maybe it's more just Casca and everybody else, but I was under no illusion.
I think Guts does see a friendship in Griffith. I don't think he necessarily has the emotional depth to know what he is and what he's doing.
I definitely think you're right in saying that Guts sees a friendship in Griffith, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he thinks he has a conscience.
That's true, but I don't think he thinks about the thought of consciousness in that case. I don't think he has the liberty of thinking of it that way.
That's fair.
That's why, like, when he hears that thing about Griffith saying, like, I can't be friends with anyone who I don't respect, and I don't respect anyone who doesn't have a plan. He takes it personally.
Yeah.
But he doesn't take it like, oh, he was never friends with me. He was more like, I gotta get my shit together.
Yeah. Actually, I really liked that. I liked the whole Guts deciding to leave. I thought that was a great move. Totally made sense for his character and gave him a chance to grow, which was really nice. To grow outside of the Band of the Hawks, which is what we've seen up until this point. So I guess let's go into the fall of the Band of the Hawks, right? Griffith gets outcast. The entire thing falls into upheaval. The Hawks are attempted to be ambushed and executed. They get to flee. Casca ends up becoming the
de facto leader of the Hawks.
De facto leader of the Hawks. And she's doing her best, but she faces a big uphill battle in the sense that she's not as bloodthirsty as Griffith was. She's not as willing to sacrifice people for a cause, because her cause is like the complete opposite. It's to keep them alive.
Yeah.
Whereas they were pawns for Griffith.
For Griffith, there was always the ambition. There was the ascent. For them, if they're just trying to survive, they're just going to be constantly in that place until they just get caught eventually, until they eventually die.
Yeah, absolutely. And so because of that shifting into like the focus of survival, it makes sense that a lot of people left. It makes sense who stayed. It makes sense that like without without this goal based around what they have been groomed and raised, and this veil that has been put in front of their eyes as to this is like their purpose in life, survival does not fit that, because death is ultimately the price that is paid and an expectation of what they were doing under Griffith, right? It's like the complete counterpoint to it. And so she faces a lot of pushback for the decisions that she's making. She's getting a lot of pushback as to like whether she's doing a good job or not. But like, she's honestly one of my favorite characters. I love her so much. She's a great character. So when Guts comes back and saves the group, woohoo! I'm just so happy for the two of them. For now. I know that what the author has done has planted a seed of hope in my heart that will ultimately be ripped away into tiny little pieces, but I'm going to allow that to happen. I'm putting my heart in their hands and saying, slay me.
Because I know what's about to happen.
Oh no.
You don't even know.
I know I don't know, but I know it's gonna hurt.
Once again, no matter what you think is going to happen, it's going to be worse. Particularly, but it's a very small moment. It's during the siege, in the last part of the... Did I literally pull right into it? I literally pulled right into it.
Nice.
It's the friggin', the sword, yeah. The sword that, what's his name? The demon from the tower. The guy who ended up being like a gigantic, like, flying demon. He gives Guts the sword when his giant buster sword shatters during the fights. That and the appearance of the Skull Knight are two very brief moments in these volumes that have ramifications for the later parts of the series.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say. It's so weird because I forgot that even happens when I was reading it. I'm like, oh right, he shows up for like a brief moment. And it's like all these small pieces that feel kind of like little blips in the grander scheme of the story are going to come together later.
Got it.
Just keep in mind those moments.
Put a pin in that.
Like also is like going back to like how like the demon recognized the Behelits when Griffith shows up to save Guts and the gang.
Is that the one who ran away? In
Yes.
the previous book?
I forget his name. It was gonna bother me. It's like
The one who flies away and he's like, I ain't fucking with that shit.
Yeah,
That was-
he's like-
I love him so much. That was honestly my favorite scene out of all of Berserk, when he was like, I'm gonna kill everybody, and then he's like, ho, yeet.
he's like, nope.
He's like, nope. That was so good. Okay, so I think that's it for this volume. We will be back in a future video when we read Omnibus 4, which contains 10, 11, and 12. Thanks for being here. If you want to support my channel, I have a Patreon link below, as well as a coffee and other ways that you can follow me on various social media. I post videos whenever I feel like it. Thanks for watching. Bye!
Bye.
What's it making, Mr. Wonka? Mr. Wonka worked the factory.
In your wildest dreams, you'll put out the measure.
Mr.